have a lot of Muslims like this who,
Yes, there
or
are.
a country like Jordan, where you
Yeah.
presumably have, Muslims, Christians, Jewish people, or Israel, Muslims, Christians, and Jewish people living together in largely harmony. Obviously, there can be some friction around the edges.
I'm not sure I would.
Did you see his face?
No, I didn't. Where?
Obviously, there can be some friction around the edges.
That dude's funny.
Man.
Friction around the edges.
He's like, really?
Little friction.
Or Israel, Muslims, Christians, and Jewish people living together in largely harmony. Obviously, there can be some friction around the edges.
I'm not sure I would describe the coexistence of Christians, Muslims, and Jews in the Middle East as largely in harmony.
I'm playing a devil's advocate to say, in some cases, there can be, if I had a Muslim
This is nice, man.
here to kind of say, hey, I'm a moderate Muslim.
The majority, there
I don't
are forms
believe
of
in
there are forms of
violence.
Muslims, right? The majority are the Sunni, and the Sunni have given us the hardest time. So I mentioned traveling in Syria in 2010, 2011, the war broke out, and now we don't have 2 million Christians in Syria anymore. Maybe we have 300,000 or 400,000.
Incredible.
Yeah.
There used to be how many?
2 million.
2
That's as
million
of
Christians
2000.
in Syria.
That was just in 2010. It used to be a lot more
in
than that.
2010.
2010.
And now it's down to a few
Vast
hundred thousand.
majority are gone. Absolutely.
And they've fled or they've been killed.
Islam is the most disruptive historical development in the history of Christianity.
Did you hear that?
That's true. That's true. They conquered like 80% of the Muslim world.
Yeah.
I mean, 80% of the Christian world.
Yeah. He said it right there. Islam has been the most disruptive historical development in the history of Christianity. So,
And he will be defrocked for saying this tomorrow.
not in the Orthodox Church.
Muhammad was born in 570 in what is now Saudi Arabia. And by the time he finished, by 630 or so, he had led
632, liar.
raids against Jewish and Christian tribes.
He doesn't know. He doesn't even know.
If he doesn't even know that it was 632, how can you trust anything he said?
He had led
know, he's got to go.
25 raids against Jewish and Christian tribes. Unprovoked, he established a worldview in Islam.
Is this true, David? Did he?
Unprovoked. He didn't believe him. What more provocation could he ask for?
Is this true, David? Did he raid Jews and Christians unprovoked? Did Muhammad do such a thing?
Yeah, and pagans.
Why would he do that?
Because he wanted their stuff. This is Muhammad's realization. Great. Wait, they've got stuff that I want, but I can just get my followers to help me take it. And I can build an entire religion around this.
And then you can say, I give you 2 good options.
I give you 2 good options. You said I'll take them, and we'll take your stuff.
That divides the whole world into 2. We do this too as Christians, right? We view the whole world in 2 parts. The area that has been evangelized, that has heard the good news and has had an opportunity to believe in Jesus and to enter into the kingdom of God, and those parts of the world that have not yet been evangelized. For us, that's how Christians are always looking at it. Islam views the world in 2 parts, what they call the House of Islam. The House of Islam is where not just there are predominance of Muslims,
Say
but
Dar
where
es Salaam.
Sharia or Muslim law is in force. If it's not in force, there may be a majority of Muslims, but they don't consider that truly the House of Islam. The rest of the world, you know what they call the rest of the world? The House of War. That's how a Muslim divides. That's the Quran.
It was actually surprising to me that a priest sits down and talks about this on camera, that he also knows the concepts here, that he can deliver the idea here. This is a very important thing to bring up when you want to talk about Islam and why it's so violent and disruptive, and how it's different from Christianity, and why it has been violently subjugating others and making life worse for everyone and so on. He has the whole idea of how Islam views the world as Darul Harb, which is house of war, and Darul Islam, which is house of Islam or house of peace. So that's how Islam sees the world. He knows the concept. He's not making this up. I learned the very same thing growing up as a Muslim. I learned that any place that is not under Islamic law is a Darul Harb, that this is a land of war, which is meant to be fought and brought under Islamic dominance. Now, there is one more thing, which is that normally, historically seen, Muslims have always considered a place that once has come under Islamic dominance permanently as a house of Islam. And that place should always be a house of Islam. And if it falls out of the hands of Islam, then it must be brought back into the hands of Islam at some point in one way or another. This has always been an Islamic idea. But this is basically how Islam divides the world. He's completely correct on that.
Interesting is you're talking about how refreshing it is to have a priest talking about this. And I'm sitting here thinking, given what's going on in the world and how long it's been going on, shouldn't every priest be talking about this stuff and know this stuff? Like, shouldn't this be required basic knowledge for Christians, especially Christian leaders at this point? It's like, how is it like with all the Christians in the world and all the different priests and pastors and stuff like that? It's like still surprising to us when one sounds knowledgeable about Islam at all.
Shocking. This priest says something that everyone should have been saying.
Priest humiliates all weakling Christians. Based priest humiliates weakling Christians.
Unfortunately, I feel like this guy can say it without any consequences because he's a traditional Antiochian Orthodox priest. I would imagine that
Then I'm converting to Antiochian.
if he was a Catholic priest, he would probably get in trouble for saying stuff like this, and would be summoned and all that. That's how I feel. I don't know.
You can imagine what that means for Christians, what that means for Christians and has meant for Christians since 634 when the Muslims came into Jerusalem and then into Damascus and then into all of our major cities in North Africa and then started their jihad across the Mediterranean Sea coming into the southern parts of France and Spain. What that has meant for us is several things. One, if you want to maintain your freedom, you want to maintain your rights, you have to convert to Islam. If you do that as a Christian, you've lost your soul. You've betrayed God. You've become what the church calls an apostate. God forbid, most of our people didn't do that. Some did.
You mean you're saying historically or you're saying recently?
I'm saying since the 7th century.
Since the 7th century.
Until today.
Until today, right.
Absolutely until today. This is Islam. It's not a type of Islam.
It's the idea of this, how
Did you hear that? He said this is Islam. It's not a type of Islam. This is Islam.
did the early church win souls? Martyrdom and poverty,
Yes.
you'd say, and the
love.
influence and love, of course.
Absolutely
And
love.
then how did Islam win its first
Jesus
conquest?
said, no greater witness do we have, no greater potency than this. We love one another. He said, by this, all men will know that you're my disciples. What's the ultimate apologetic? If you love one another the way I loved you. This is how we won the world.
Catholics and Orthodox have to get together, but that's a whole
Yes.
other. We do love each other, of
Yes,
course.
I think we do.
We do. Of
Not
course.
the Protestants.
Islam, it was a religion with its early, centuries marked in violence to conquer.
There's 100 in my count. I used to teach a class at the local Christian university called Cal Baptist in my town called The Cross and the Crescent, the history of Christian-Muslim relations. When I was teaching that class, I read through the Quran many times in preparation for class, and I noted how many direct commands to violence Muhammad gave. My count, 123. 123
Ha!
explicit commands
124.
to violence to those who...
Learn to read, buddy. Learn to count.
So 123 commands to violence, he says.
resisted the advance of Islam, and particularly to Christians, including details on how to kill us, stab them in the neck. I mean, this is one of his commands. It's not a coincidence that many
people, not,
in England
he changed it to
have suffered Islamic violence have been stabbed in the neck. People go, oh, they got stabbed in the neck because the person was crazy. Actually, he was just following Muhammad's commandments.
What do you make of
47 verse 4, ladies and gentlemen.
The funny thing is, when I heard him say this, I immediately thought of Robert Spencer, because this is something that Robert Spencer will often bring up and say when he describes terrorist attacks by Islamic terrorists. He will draw attention to the fact that the Quran is specific on striking their necks and all that, and will then point out that this is something that Islamic terrorists tend to frequently do, where they attack non-Muslims in non-Muslim countries and strike their necks or stab their necks, and this is directly tied to or connected to the Quran or inspired by it. This is not a talking point that I ever really went into, but as soon as he said it, as soon as I heard him say it, this just reminded me immediately of Robert Spencer.
Yeah, when we do This Week in Jihad, Robert's telling the stories, and he always goes, and a Muslim stabbed someone. Guess where they stabbed him? And I go, I'll guess the neck for 200. And he goes, wow, I don't know how you do it. As far as this dude's voice and the cadence of his speaking, it reminds me of Jay Smith. He has a similar tone and cadence to his speaking.
Nice. But do you agree with what he said, or do you think it's Islamophobic?
Well, it's Islamophobic, but I agree with it.
Interesting. Okay. So which verse is that again, David?
What?
Stabbing them in the neck.
Did you say version?
Verse.
Oh, 47:4.
47:4. There you go. Now, those of you who are at home watching this before your televisions want to fact check this and open a Quran to that verse, you will of course find out that it doesn't say that at all. It says Islam is a religion of peace
and tolerance.
There you go.
The person was crazy. Actually, he was just following Muhammad's commandments.
He was just following the book and the man. The book and the man.
obviously, we had Bill Asaley on the show recently. He's a California assemblyman. He's not Riverside County, he's adjacent, but, really solid guy. He's quoting Mother Teresa, in our interview. Good man, and he's fighting for pro-life. He's fighting for marriage.
Sure.
And, here he is born and raised a Muslim. And still, I don't get into the details of his faith practice, but you have a lot of Muslims like this who, or a country like Jordan, where you presumably have, Muslims, Christians, Jewish people, or Israel, Muslims, Christians, and Jewish people living together in largely harmony. Obviously, there can be some friction around the edges.
I'm not sure I would.
Did you see his face?
No, I didn't. Where?
Obviously, there can be some friction around the edges.
That's good, funny. Friction around the edges.
He's like, really?
Little friction.
Or Israel, Muslims, Christians, and Jewish people living together in largely harmony. Obviously, there can be some friction around the edges.
I'm not sure I would describe the coexistence of Christians, Muslims, and Jews in the Middle East as largely in harmony.
I'm playing a devil's advocate to say, there can be, if I had Muslims
this is nice, man.
here to kind of say, hey, I'm a moderate Muslim.
The majority, there are forms of Muslims, right? The majority are the Sunni, and the Sunni have given us the hardest time. So I mentioned traveling in Syria in 2010. 2011, the war broke out, and now we don't have 2 million Christians in Syria anymore. Maybe we have 300,000 or 400,000.
Incredible. Yeah. There used to be how many?
2 million.
2 million Christians in Syria.
That was just in 2010. There used to be a lot more than that. 2010.
And now it's down to a few hundred thousand.
Vast majority are gone. Absolutely.
And they've fled or they've been killed.
Yeah, she said Jews, Christians, Muslims, and Jews in Jordan. There are no Jews in Jordan, so she might have gotten that mixed up. The only place where there is still a significant Jewish population living is Israel. There are no Jews left in Jordan. It would be too difficult, too dangerous to live there. So
both.
Incredible. Hundreds of thousands.
I'll give you an example.
Over 1 million fled or killed.
Both.
Now it's down to a few hundred thousand.
Vast majority are gone. Absolutely.
And they've fled or they've been killed.
Both.
Incredible. Hundreds of thousands.
I'll give you an example.
Over 1 million
I stayed,
fled or killed.
When I was there, I stayed in the ancient city of Aleppo. It's the largest city in Syria in the north.
I'd love to visit one day.
Incredible town. An incredible town, literally going back to the time of the apostles. So I met there. I was hosted by the Metropolitan Archbishop Boulos Yaji, who was a man of incredible talents and gave us a wide tour of his metropolis there and all the ministries that were going on. He had an internet cafe for the young people. I played basketball with the young people there at his metropolis. He had a
Gotab always comes to the rescue and says, I think she doesn't know much about Islam. Her main focus is her pro-life work, to be fair. I know you feel the need to defend her because she's your favorite activist and all that. I get it. And I was not trying to be mean, just pointing out that she got that wrong about Jordan. So
wait, what's she known for? What's she known for?
I don't really know, man. I have no idea.
Like knitting, what? She have a knitting channel, baking channel? What does she do?
I think she might do photography. I don't know.
Oh, okay, that's pretty cool. That's why she has a good set here. Like looks really high quality. That's what you get if you're a photographer and you go to making videos. You get really good lighting and stuff like that because you have a photographer's eye.
Yeah, just like IP, for example.
Mm-hmm. IP too.
A monastery on the third. I think it was a 7th floor. It's a 7th floor, like archdiocesan bishopric, and on one of the floors were the nuns. It was just an unbelievable place. We went across into Turkey. We got to see so many churches there, and of course our ancient cathedral in Antioch, which is the home of St. John Chrysostom, where he's born and raised. Just to the north of there's a mountain in which 300 monks lived in caves at the time that St. John Chrysostom, who was born in 347, when he was growing up. I mean, that's like what we went to see on feast days. They would just walk, 1.5 miles to the mountain and have a conversation with a Syrian ascetic who had been there for 20 years in a cave. I mean, this is how they lived. This is the potency of Christianity. Well, it was less than a year after I left Aleppo that on a humanitarian mission, Metropolitan Boulos and his driver were stopped by Sunni jihadis. They pulled his deacon out of the driver's seat. They shot him in the head right in front of him, and we have never seen our Metropolitan Archbishop since. Prayed for him every day in our churches for over 10 years.
Meaning he was kidnapped.
He was kidnapped and presumably killed.
But you've never had been able to find the body or bury.
Our Patriarch John X is blood brothers with Metropolitan Paul. Metropolitan Boulos means Paul. Metropolitan Paul and Patriarch John are literal brothers. They have a third sister, who's a nun in Syria, in one of our monasteries.
So you know that
I don't know if you know about that story, David. You probably don't, because you don't concern yourself with people in the Middle East. But I only heard about this long ago, but I recently looked into the details of this as I was looking into the different churches and the Orthodox Church and Antioch. Let's see, Boulos, Antioch. Let's see. So, abducted bishops Johanna Ibrahim and Bolus Yazigi, they were, let's see what happened there. So he basically just described it. He was kidnapped on... So here you have the article. Johanna Ibrahim, also Gregorius Johanna Ibrahim, is the Syriac Orthodox Archbishop of Aleppo. He was kidnapped on April 22, 2013, along with Paul, the Greek Orthodox Metropolitan. This one is the person they're talking about, Bolus al-Yazigi. This happened under Islamic territory during the civil war in Syria. This is what happens under Islam.
I said Paul Yazigi.
Yazigi. Y-A-Z-I-J-I. Sunrise in Paradise said bolus because there's no P in Arabic. Yes, that's precisely why. I hope he didn't mean to tell me that.
Yeah. We all know he's the apostate prophet.
Yes. Egotam said I can cry whenever I want. You can't. Stop it.
Deacon he was with was shot. That's
pictures
confirmed.
Of that. Yeah.
Lord have mercy, but you don't know what happened
We have never been able to find. Our patriarch has literally, with the collaboration of the Pope, with the collaboration of presidents of countries, have put pressure on the Turkish government. Some people in Turkey say a judge revealed that he punished some jihadis who claimed to have murdered him and buried him in the sand. But we don't know. We just don't know.
It's still missing.
Happened. Do you have a sense of what you think might have happened?
I don't know. But this was 2013. This is 12 years ago. That's a long time not to hear from him, huh? It's a long time not to hear from him. Anyway, so our patriarch finally did replace him. So we have a new metropolitan archbishop there. But just to bring this from 2011 to today, when the president Assad was driven out of Damascus and fled to Russia, and the jihadis,
the Syrian president.
That's right, the president
Assad,
of Syria, who had been president for many years and succeeded his father. They are, by the Western media, considered to be terrible tyrants. All I can speak for is the reality that under this family dictatorship, the Christians have fared much better than we have fared under Sunni Muslims.
And what?
Now, this is a very, very interesting part and perspective to go into because, David, you probably remember we have heard projections when we talked about Assad, the dictator of Syria, who recently fled to Russia to be with Putin. Whenever we talked about him and how bad he was and how bad those who replace him will be, we received some responses from people saying stuff like Assad was good to minorities, Assad was good to Christians, and so on. So he, for example, also points out that under Assad, the Christians were generally treated well. But this is the thing. It could be that under the Assad regime, the Christians and other minorities were treated relatively better than under Islamic rule. And we will also point this out, that the Islamists who are coming in place of Assad, the dictator, will probably be worse toward the disbelievers, toward the Christians and the others. However, just because the new ones are worse, that doesn't mean that the old one was good, right? The old one was also oppressive of different minorities. He was corrupt as it gets. He was a violent guy who had people disappeared all the time. People were tortured in his chambers and so on. There's a constant fight, a constant conflict in the Middle East, including in Syria, going on between different factions of Muslims. And Assad was only a part of that entire conflict. Under some people, the Christians might be treated better than under others. That doesn't mean that those leaders are good people. They are all pretty messed up.
Yeah, I mean, our perspective was basically dictator, but better than what's going to come after him. It's similar to Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein was an evil dictator. He was massively better than ISIS. Massively better than ISIS.
That's true. It sounded like you wanted to continue saying something, but apparently you don't have many words. So.
No.
Good.
You mean by that is there haven't been as many outright acts of violence by jihadists?
The family comes from a Muslim sect called the Alawites, and the Alawites are kind of a mix of Christian and Muslim and don't practice jihad like the Sunnis do. So Christians have been able to have a little bit of peace. I'll tell you, though, the current archbishop...
The thing is that it's even more complicated than that. The Alawites are basically a sect that comes from Islam. Their name is based on Muhammad's cousin and son-in-law Ali. Basically, they're
because Muhammad was white. And so they went with the whole family. We're all whites.
Yeah, all whites. So they were all white. The Alawites are basically based on Ali. So they are based on Islamic tradition. They are a Shia offshoot, a Shia sect. But the thing is that they have that they had become over history so incredibly detached from Islamic tradition and Islamic worship, and had become kind of their own little religion that is esoteric, highly mystical, secretive, that doesn't have one certain book, but that has different texts that represent them. But usually their religious practices are kept oral and taught from generation to generation, not shared with others in written form, and so on. But apparently they only began recently re-identifying as Muslims in order to be accepted in a Muslim society, or to be accepted as rulers, for example. But they're not really Muslim. They're a weird, wild little sect. Not a very good sect. They have some history of hate and fighting and all that. And they do have a history of being brutal to the other side as well. There are two sides of evil and two sides of messed up in the Middle East. It's not just the Sunnis who are the messed up ones. It's also the Shia that are really messed up. The two sides will frequently brutalize each other, kill each other, torture each other, and so on. The Alawites may not be inherently Islamic and traditionally jihadist and so on, but they also, especially over the last century, aligned themselves with those Shiites who became very violent and hostile toward the Sunnis. So it's just a giant soup of evil, you know.
It is, and plus you have this situation, since there's like they don't have any concept of, okay, we need to move forward, so we need to forgive and clean the slate and things like that. So what you'll have is a group gets to power, and then they punish the group. They punish the group for what they did in the past, but then eventually a different group rises to power, and then, now we get our get back and we get to kill all you guys. And then, okay, another 50 years later, then that group takes back over again. We're going to kill you all back. And these guys will be killing each other for stuff that happened 12 centuries ago.
Yeah.
And yep.
This is the thing. This is why they should convert to Christianity and learn a sense of forgiveness or something.
Yeah, we're gonna have to impose Christianity on all of Syria. It's the only way.
Yeah, we need to forcibly impose Christianity on everyone and learn them to be forgiving and loving. So.
You said learn them to be. It's teach them. Teach them.
I did say that. Yeah.
In your defense, I do have some hillbilly relatives who say that we got to go learn them something.
Oh man, there is somebody who said something accurate here. Storm D said, in summary, if Assad wanted to stay in power, he should have cared about his population and not fight wars for the Ayatollah. This is also another aspect, which is that the Assad family, Bashar al-Assad and his father, Hafiz al-Assad, they weren't necessarily good guys who just wanted peace and prosperity for their own population. They were also famously meddling in Middle Eastern affairs and siding with the Shia side in fighting against the other, and so on. It is because their ideology that they also had in common with Saddam Hussein, the Ba'athist ideology. Their ideology is not an ideology that is focused on having a peaceful society. It is an ideology that is focused on a pan-Arab future, where they are supposed to overthrow governments and unite the Arab world under some weird nationalist, secularist pan-Arab ideal. And the Middle East is just completely messed up. I don't know.
Yeah, and the situation, you can't even blame Assad for various alliances, because here's the thing: if your group is persecuted at one time and you have a chance to get to power, you want to form alliances because and you understand you basically have to be brutal because everyone's coming after you. And so you're not even going to be able to maintain power at all unless you're just brutal. So you have to be brutal, and you have to form alliances with other brutal people. But then eventually someone else comes along and look how brutal this guy was. It's like, yeah, that's the only way to maintain any sort of power. And you can rationalize all the brutal stuff you do, because it's like, well, if I don't do this, then someone else is going to take over, and here's what they're going to do to me, so I got to do it and stuff. And it's just this endless cycle of blood, man.
This is why we should force them all to convert to Christianity. That's what I'm saying.
We should. Yeah. We should. You know what we're gonna have to do? We're gonna have to say, you go ahead and draw your map. You give Israel everything they want, and then everything else will be taken over by Christians.
I will have to draw Greater Israel, man. Like, where they take Egypt and the north of Arabia.
They can have it.
Way over to the Levant and so on.
We don't want it.
Something that only online groupers believe in. Hey, did you see this guy, Muslim cowboy?
Oh, I'm the Muslim cowboy. cowboy. What'd he say?
As an American, I want to see Sharia law in all 50 states.
So we can bang all the little girls we want. Yeah.
And I said, as an American, we have guns.
Yeah. Classic AP.
No,
You always have the sickest burns.
No, I don't.
That one time, the most cold-blooded thing I've ever seen in my life is when John said, "I'll strengthen it on numbers," and you just posted, "Numbers can be reduced." It's like the most cold-blooded thing ever. Oh boy.
I think I actually ratioed him on that.
That's messed up.
But I have to check that, man. I forgot about that. I have to check that now. I've completely forgot about that. Man. Reduce. Let's see. Let us see. Let us see. Here it is. There it is. If we increase our birth rates, Muslims can be assured to be 10% of Britain and 20% of France population in 2050, despite any policy changes in immigration. We are not the Zionist lobby. Our strength is not in our ability to influence politicians. Our strength is in our numbers. And I said numbers can be reduced. So. Look at that. 9.2 thousand likes and 9.1 thousand.
And that's after he got like all those shares and stuff. That's funny.
Yeah. This means I'm right.
Classic AP.
And he said, "Not by you, big man."
Not by you, big man.
What a stupid comeback. Like,
yeah. Not by you, big man. You came up with the sickest burn of all time. And then he comes back, "Not by you, big man."
Not by you. I mean, yeah, not by me. Why would you even suggest that? How would that even work? So anyway, those were times when I was a sick guy.
You're sick.
I'm just sick.
So this is only several months old now. The current Archbishop of Aleppo, as soon as the new temporary leader in Syria, who is a full-blown ISIS jihadi, that is his history, who came from the north.
Wait, no. I remember he took off his ISIS clothes and put on a suit. So, dude, you're wrong. He put on a suit, man.
Yeah,
what's it take to prove that he's a different man? He put on a suit.
I'm a changed man. I promise. Those days are behind me. I'm going to be a good boy. I'm going to take care of you. Yeah, just one correction here. It's not ISIS, Al Qaeda. He was a member of Al Qaeda, and he also worked together with ISIS. So just want to point that out here. Not ISIS.
So you're saying this guy's completely ignorant.
Yeah. He doesn't even know that it was actually Al Qaeda. See, it's not that bad.
He thinks Muhammad died in 630, not 632.
No, much respect. So he's actually quite on point in.
Oh, he is extremely on point, shockingly on point. In fact, you should try and get this dude on your show.
You probably wouldn't like me because I'm a Zionist.
You should message him though. I challenge you to debate me.
I saw one thing in the past that I wanted to kind of engage with back in the day, where he talked about Gaza, and in that regard, I would say he's not very knowledgeable. He was repeating the narrative that Palestinians lived there and then were kicked out or something in 1948, which is like. It's a very popular and a very false narrative, often spread by the descendants of people who were involved in the 1948 war. But yeah, at least on this point here, he's pretty correct.
In Damascus with American weapons. That is very, very concerning to me.
And his American weapons were received how?
From our government directly. We have been supporting jihadis. They went from being our enemies to our agents because our government has been very opposed to the Assad regime for decades. So
and this is a common, just, obviously people listening are probably familiar with this, but it's a common American, tactic to, create instability in some of these regions because we see, the prevailing power as we wanting to destabilize the prevailing power, but then you end up arming, someone else who might become the prevailing power that isn't your friend.
We're very arrogant from our perspective, from my perspective.
You see it as pure arrogance.
I think we're very arrogant. I think we're an imperial power, traditional Americana.
We're talking about, I'm not arrogant. My name is literally the most humble. What are you talking about?
No, you will be humiliated for calling me arrogant.
Dare you call me arrogant?
That was a cool place to stop the video there. Look at him.
Yeah. I guess here's the part where I start having some problems with what he says. So America did supply weapons to certain groups in Syria, but there is no evidence that America supplied any weapons to Al Qaeda or ISIS, for example. What did happen is probably that ISIS and Al Qaeda took over weapons that were delivered, that were supplied to groups in Syria, because in a place of such corruption, first off, ISIS and Al Qaeda will take weapons from those they defeat, and those weapons will be American weapons. Secondly, you supply weapons and equipment to a very corrupt region where it will be likely that some people will take those weapons and sell them to others for a little bit of money. So it will end up in the wrong hands. But America didn't directly supply those terrorist organizations with any weapons or any ammunition or equipment. At least there's no evidence for that.